The Honesty podcast is a space for women who know that they're meant for a life that's full of magic, excitement, and wonder. If you're ready to reconnect with your power and listen to that inner knowing that says you're meant for more, grab a tea, take a breath, and let's begin. Hi, and welcome to the Honesty podcast. This is my first ever episode. I did not think the cat would be involved, but here she is. And yeah, I'm super excited to make this into a YouTube podcast. It has been something I've wanted to do for a long time, but the imposter syndrome, the timing, my very encouraging mind has made me definitely slow down on making a start. And so I just thought this was like a really good place to begin on the podcast, is speaking about how I have got here, how I've managed to sit here and record this first episode, because it was definitely something that I've been procrastinating on for a long time. And I do think part of that was that it just wasn't the right time, and I was ignoring that a little bit over the need of starting a podcast. But I also think that it was my nervous system trying to keep me safe, and yeah, just bringing up all the excuses under the sun as to why I should do my podcast tomorrow or next weekend or maybe next month. And, when things feel stretchy, when we are taking a risk and putting ourselves out there, when we are challenging ourselves and going after something that means a lot to us, the nervous system kicks in. And unless we can bear witness to that and still move forward anyway, even though it feels really uncomfortable, we're not going to move anywhere. We're not going to be able to achieve the things that our soul, our whole body really wants us to achieve. And I think that's the difference really between people who we can see who have created success for themselves and chosen that path, and for people who haven't, because there is no difference really aside from the fact that they went for it, even though it felt uncomfortable. And I just really want this space, this podcast, to be an honest chat about my journey, so that I hope it encourages whoever is listening to take that next step, and also to show the behind the scenes a little bit, because I think a lot of the time when we can see somebody who has achieved success according to us, then it can be very easy to use that as an excuse not to go for things, because, well, of course they've got it because they were lucky, or they've got parents who have money, or they've got friendship groups that support them. And, again, the excuses start to come to the surface. So I just wanted to say I'm really excited to be here. I really want the podcast to be a space where I speak about, my journey in business and spirituality and friendships and love and growth, and to just be really honest and authentic in what I deliver. There's always going to be a part of me that feels like maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe I should have said that, and goes into a spiral. But I'm honestly speaking from the heart, and my intention with this is pure. And yeah, I just really want this to be something I look forward to, a way of connecting to a community of people who, share the same values and interests and resonate with what I'm saying. And to finally take that step and get over the fear of being seen. And it actually made me laugh, because when I was thinking about doing this podcast, I love astrology first and foremost, and human design. And so I was thinking about my chart, and that I have Libra in the fourth house. And I really am somebody who really needs the home to look beautiful to me, for me to feel then settled. And so, yeah, creating this little podcast space. I rent my home. This is the spare room. I've got a partner, bless him, who is really supportive of the fact that I'm just, completely redecorating the spare room because I want to start a podcast. And so having this sort of safe space that feels nice could have been an excuse to not start the podcast, and I can see where maybe I was procrastinating a little bit. But I think actually the more I get to know myself, the more that I realise that's just a part of who I am. I like my space to feel really nice. And then also the fact that I have Gemini in the 12th house, and the fact that I've made the spare bedroom my sanctuary to communicate and share about spirituality, it really did hit me today that unintentionally this is what I've done. And so, yeah, I just want to speak a little bit of the journey over the last 6 months into me creating this podcast and why I've done that. And a huge reason was that I really want to share my unique perspective with the world. I feel like as a projector in human design, I am very open to seeing things, and it's just a part of me feels like I can share my wisdom with the world and make a difference, and that's ultimately what I really want to do, is just to make a positive impact in the world. And then I was doing Instagram reels and trying to put myself out there on social media, and I just didn't feel authentic in doing so. Like, it felt really weird to like cut myself down when speaking into like 90 seconds and create a script, and I could feel myself like getting really nervous and just feeling a bit icky because it wasn't who I am. Like, I like to speak and I like things to just come out in the moment. And so I started to really think about a podcast, because it means that I can sit here, I can speak to a camera without rushing, without feeling like I need to script anything. And then I could use that format, the long form content, to put on YouTube, but then I can also take elements of it and create reels or shorts on YouTube. So it's 100% me speaking in the moment with a theme. Like, today's theme is me starting the podcast. But it means that I can really be myself and be authentic doing that. And the more I get used to doing this podcast, I feel like the more like who I am is going to start coming through. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, today it is really nerve-wracking sitting here with a camera and a microphone. I'm really grateful for being here and my tea. But I know that if I start this today, then in 6 months' time, in 12 months' time, as the podcast grows, which is something I really want it to do, then it won't feel as overwhelming. So being authentic online was a really big reason why I felt like a podcast was the right move for me. Now, saying I want to do a podcast and then actually creating a podcast are two very separate things. And so I feel like whenever we're going into something as humans that feels a little bit stretchy, a little bit out of our comfort zone, it's something new, of course all the fears are going to come up, because that's just a part of being a human. So I, yeah, felt like all of the limiting beliefs definitely surfaced once I decided to do a podcast. And so creating the future version of me so that I could really tune into that version of me whenever I could start to see the excuses start to come in and the limiting beliefs, like encouraging me not to move forward with this podcast, has been incredibly important, because it's meant that on the days like today where I was like, "Do you know what, it's getting later in the day, maybe I should just do it next week." Like, me and my partner shared a bottle of wine last night, and I was like, "I'm really tired, I've been to the gym." All the excuses started coming to the surface, because my future me is so important, like that future life that I want, the people I want to reach through the words that I share, the version of reality that am striving towards, means too much to let them excuses get in the way. But if I didn't have that picture in my mind of where I really wanted to go, and it didn't mean a lot to me, I could 100% just stay stuck. And I think that's a huge factor in many of us staying stuck, is that what we want to achieve doesn't mean enough to get us moving forward. So really having this vision of the podcast doing really well, I started to think about who I'd really want to get on once I'd moved away from the bedroom, or even better, if somebody was willing to come and sit in this bedroom with me. once I started to really think about that and the people who I was going to reach and getting some amazing comments on YouTube or Substack, creating shorts that people could resonate with as well for YouTube and reels for Instagram without, needing to think about a script and, like just really tuning in to that version of reality has helped me overcome the nerves and the distractions and the excuses. And I do think that if you are somebody who's watching this now, thank you for watching if you are, and you're in that position where you are feeling a little bit stuck and there are certain things you want to start, maybe a new job, maybe you want to start studying or doing something like this, a new business, like marketing within your business, then it's one thing to say you want to do the thing, but you need to have an anchor of a version of you that feels so important and potent that it makes you start to act. Because without that, honestly, I wouldn't be sat here right now. And yes, don't get me wrong, creating this space has felt really nice, but in the last 2 years I have definitely created beautiful spaces in the home to basically start a podcast or run a business or start doing reels, and then it's never amounted to anything because I was letting the excuses win. I was letting, my fears and limiting beliefs and, this false narrative that I wasn't good enough and, I was too lazy to ever amount to anything. There was many, like false narratives that were coming to the surface that I will definitely speak about in future episodes. But I definitely let them win in the past, and it's only been in the last 6 months that I've really changed my mindset around what I can achieve and what I want in my life, and like using my morning mindset practice, or even during the day, if I can feel myself creating excuses like today, I just went to the gym. I started to put on like Taylor Swift and just like girly pop songs because the thought of them doing what needs to be done to get to where they're at like really inspired me in that moment. So I was like, right, I'm just going to channel a little bit of them. Like, who do I love? Who really inspires me that have overcome this moment where they've got a choice? They'll either put in the work or they'll stay where they are. And if I can channel that energy of them and really find that motivation from it, then good, because it's got me sat here right now. And so I would just really recommend taking a day and getting a journal and just really start to write down who it is you want to become in order to start the project that you're desiring to start. And once you get a clear idea of who that version of you is, and I don't want you to think that I'm telling you to turn into a different person. I'm not a different person sat here now because I've decided that my future vision is important. I'm just becoming more of the authentic version of myself by taking these risks and shedding the old narratives that held me back. I'm becoming who I am meant to be. And I cannot wait to see who I am in 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, because I'm willing to go through the uncomfortable challenges. And I'm just going to be really honest every time I have to overcome something, of what that's really looked like, because I honestly see online, we see like the end version of what people have done, or like, a lot of people who I follow online are in the spiritual world of manifestation, breathwork, EFT, and they're just incredible people. When I see them, I don't feel jealous. It's like an inner knowing that I could become that if I just put the work in. So I often find myself annoyed at myself that I'm not putting in the work, if that makes sense. But we do see where they're at today, because I do think like the energy of them, they've got maybe a lot of followers on Instagram, YouTube, the podcasts are really popular. And it has taken years for them to get to that point, but I'm only just finding them now. And so there isn't a podcast episode from when they started ages ago, because they've probably started that podcast or that Substack at a point in their career or journey where they are limitless almost. Like, obviously, they're going to be having to work through things in the background, but that journey of the last 5 years isn't really public, or it is, but not quite. And so I just think it's so important now that I'm definitely at the beginning of my journey in all this. I mean, I've definitely been trying to start a business for the last 2 years, but I feel like right now this is the start. And so I just want anybody, even years from now, to be able to find this episode and be like, oh shit, yeah, you know what? She's doing that right now in her bedroom, in a rented property, with a little cat licking herself on a lap. And this was the start of it. And now look at where she is. And I just want to really use this podcast as a way to also document these different moments, because that I find really helps start things. When I've gone back on people's Instagrams to like 6 years ago, like who really inspire me now, and I've looked and been like, wow, like even their energy is so different 6 years ago at the beginning of their sort of journeys within their careers. Obviously, people who have their own business really inspire me because that's something that I'm doing. And so, like even looking online at their sort of energy shift, the way that they look, the way that they present themselves, the confidence they have, because they've put in the work 6 years ago, they are where they're at today. And I just think it's, like to have that vision of the future really does help start that momentum. And as long as you're putting one foot in front of the other, overnight success is not a thing. If it is a thing, it often won't work because we can't hold it. And, so really allowing yourself to be on this journey and just start is incredibly important. And so, yeah, I just wanted to just start the damn podcast on YouTube today and just even bring up any limiting beliefs that did hold me back over the last 6 months. So I think a really big one was that I didn't know how to use technology properly, and also I'm not in a position to pay for loads of people to help edit this podcast. And so learning a new skill, or like, I think when you in the corporate world, like I've had jobs for the last 10 years where I've been working in an office. When I start a new job, it is scary, but you've got people there and you can ask them, and you're going to have to do it anyway because it's the bread and butter. Like, I know that I'm getting money at the end of the month, but it's still scary, isn't it, to sit there and do something new? And I think when you are going into a new environment or a new project or learning a new skill, like to speak to a camera is scary enough, but then making sure the camera like is filming in 4K, making sure that the lighting's right, making sure that I'm recording and it's, it properly so that everyone can understand what I'm saying. After this, then editing it, that for me just felt really huge because it was a lot of different skills I was having to learn. And so 6 months ago, when I decided that I really wanted to do the podcast, that was a big thing. But then I was also learning how to create carousels for Instagram. I was like finishing up my astrology and human design course that I've been doing for the last 12 months and still learning that. I was, like learning all about business and how to send a newsletter and what like an email funnel was, and all of these different skills whilst also working 4 days a week at an office job. And it just was too much. And I just think then it allowed the false narratives to take over, and it just stopped me from doing anything because it felt really overwhelming in the moment. So I do think that starting this podcast 6 months ago just wasn't what I was meant to do because it felt really overwhelming. But I think a lot of the time the fear of never starting, or the fear of like the big thing that, like for me, I really wanted a successful business, and I could see so many people in my environment, like I'm best friends with some incredible entrepreneurs, but they started their journeys years ago. And so they're in a position now where their business is becoming successful. And I think I was so desperate to be at that point without waiting for it, that again, it was like when everything started to feel really overwhelming because I wasn't planning out the year, being like, okay, finish the course. Okay, and then next month learn about the email funnels. Okay, and then the month after that, learn about carousels on Instagram, and wait until the end of the year for the podcast, because then you've got all your ducks in a row. I wasn't doing that to myself. I was being really hard on myself and needing to do everything straight away, and really just not giving myself that time, because I was like, I need a business and I need it to be successful, and I need that to be right now, because if I don't start it right now, then it's going to be ages away before it becomes a success, whatever success means. And, I was just really in my head about it. And so I ended up doing this like start, stop within my actual business and career anyway, because I just was putting too much focus on all of these different things all at once and learning all of these new skills all at once. And so I do think it's also like critical to move out of the mind into the body, take a deep breath, and just be like, okay, realistically, what can I handle right now that's going to allow me to keep moving forward? Because the way that I was operating was making me like, it was like one step forward, two steps back, one step forward, two steps back. And then I was, being really harsh on myself about where I was going, because it just felt like I wasn't moving forward at all. So I think that, yeah, looking back, the big lesson I've learned is to just give myself grace and time. And for anybody who's watching who, is into human design, I'm a projector in human design anyway. I have two defined centers, so I'm a mental projector. And so I need rest a lot. I get tired really easily, and I work 4 days a week in an office, which is a lot of energy, because I never know what week is going to be busy and what isn't. And then also I was like, I really just need this business to take off, and like, and I need, like, it was like a really desperate energy, and I was being annoyed at myself for needing rest, which is, it's just my body, like, it's the way that I operate. Like, I love that I'm a projector, but I was starting to really resent the fact that I didn't have the energy required to do all of these different things and do it now and do it well. And I think part of the deconditioning in human design, especially with projectors, is that we have to find a different way of doing things that isn't the norm, that society will probably tell you is not a good idea, in order to create our version of success. And I think I've definitely realised that for me, it is just creating a plan, and then almost, when you get your house done and they say, okay, it'll be done in 6 months, but then you always know to add on like another 6 months until the project's finished. I honestly feel like that is where I'm at, is like, I just need to be like, okay, I'll get this done in 3 months. No, I won't. I'm going to give myself 6 months. And if it takes even longer than that, then it takes longer than that. But as long as I'm moving forward, then I'm on the road to success. And I think for me, success definitely means freedom, the freedom to even rest, and financial freedom, to feel valued for the work that I do and the wisdom I have, and to just have the most, like, a fluid life, a life that is, I wake up and yeah, there's some structure there, but the majority of it is just me leading from the body. And so that is my version of success. It's like, just to have this freedom in my life. Like, freedom is the most valuable thing for me. I'm a Sagittarius sun, so I feel like freedom has always been huge. So yeah, I think that having this sort of map towards, or this plan towards this freedom, but allowing it to take as long as it needs to, is one of the most important lessons I've learnt. And trying to overcome 1,000 different obstacles is only going to lead to burnout, and also then stopping, and that feeling of being stuck, being there again. If you're unrealistic about what you can handle, about the work that you can do physically and emotionally, then you are always going to end up being disappointed in yourself. And I think that actually, when we start to judge ourselves, it's one of the most detrimental things we can do, because we are all humans living on this earth. Like, we're alive. Our lives are incredible things, and like, we always think, like, if it was over next year, then we would have made the most out of it this year and just been so grateful for life. And so when we start to judge ourselves, and then it's like this dense energy then comes in of feeling sad and resentful and fearful, like, it really does bring the tone down, doesn't it? And I just think life is too short for any of that. So if we can actually take off the judgment glasses and just be realistic and honor our bodies and what we are capable of, then we can actually formulate a plan that works so that we can move forward. And so that is what I've ended up doing. And it really, weirdly or not, in human design, the 3 months before you're born is when you are meant to sort of rest and take it a little bit easier. And I didn't actually mean to do this. Oh, sorry, just like bang the mic. I didn't actually mean to do this, but in September, I just had this overwhelming urge to take 3 months to create to have new photos done, to create the podcast, to get a new brand script done for the website and for social media, and then just take, like, over the Christmas period, because I've got a week off work, to sit down and properly plan out the next 3 months and then launch the podcast. I've already got some episodes done and all of the things. And that's actually the 3 months, because my birthday is the 5th of December. That's the 3 months like, when I'm meant to be resting. And just taking that 3 months instead of having to do it right now has been one of the best things I could have done, because it means that I'm sat here now doing this podcast, and this will be the first of many, and it just feels good. It doesn't feel rushed. I'm not doing it today and then putting it out next week and there's just this, like, time pressure. It feels so much smoother. And so I just think that is really where we all need to give ourselves a little bit more grace, just give ourselves some more time. And when you look back after giving yourself this time, you'll realise that you have been moving. There hasn't been that stickiness that there once was. I'm going to wrap up this episode here. Thank you so much for tuning into this first episode. I'm super grateful that anybody has listened to it. And if you've got any words of wisdom to post underneath, or if you want any specific conversation to be had during these episodes, then I'd love to hear. I really want this to be a space where community is built. And yeah, I will see you in the next episode. I work with women who know that they're meant for more. If that's you, you'll find everything you need in the show notes.